Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jim Morgan. For now approaching 10 years, I've directed major account sales for Software Engineering of America's mainframe practice. For the last 21 years, I've had the privilege of working with the same core team of dedicated experts, helping our customers leverage the value of their Z systems. This team includes Sal Del Conte, who serves as SEA's Vice President of Development and Support. And while on the topic of privilege, thank you again to our customers. Many of you are on the call. I'd like to start by running through our agenda. We'll conclude introductions, spend a few minutes on bringing the focus on UI into context of the larger set of current demands our customers are facing in application delivery today. Sal will move into specific examples showing our Eclipse plugins and web UI options in practice. Finally, embracing the one constant, change, we'll spend a few minutes introducing our attendees to Java Batch, one of the interesting scripting language opportunities we are investigating as we demonstrate our commitment to maintaining pace with the batch testing demands of our customers. To conclude introductions, SEA is a Z Systems and IBM iSeries ISV. We've been in business for 34 years, we have no debt, and our products have been deployed in 10,000 installations worldwide. We invest 20% of our revenues in R&D, and our daily practices ranging from no-charge deployment services to live 24/7 customer support reinforce our unyielding commitment to 100% customer satisfaction. Let's bring today's focus on UI into context. We believe that outcomes desired from investments in modernization, the API economy, agile methods, and now DevOps can all be articulated at some level in the answer to the question displayed on your screen. If Z systems are an essential component enabling cross-platform application delivery, you'll probably agree that any strategy to execute on this challenge will be compromised at best if investments are not made in the assets that drive batch applications. Without going into an in-depth discussion of the DevOps enterprise, allow me to suggest that one attribute or observed behavior one would consistently see in any organization successfully dealing with this question is the prioritized commitment to testing driving early defect elimination. This suggests that one consideration worth noting is in the value of providing users the freedom of interacting through their UI of choice. If you're a 30-year mainframe systems admin or a production control analyst, the green screen's great and we'll continue to support it. If you're an agile developer or tester 2 years out of college, an Eclipse-based UI is probably your choice. And folks, if you're pursuing early defect elimination and accelerated time to quality, let me ask you, where does the commitment to reliable and predictive testing start? Before I turn this over to Sal, I want to pre-introduce the section on trends. Regardless of the UI option that you prefer, the testing or reporting service requested must be predictive and reliable. I cannot understate the importance of giving serious consideration to this thought. If your testing ISV is not investing to maintain relevance as your needs change, the result can be counterproductive to the outcomes you're looking for. With that thought, I'd like to turn it over to Sal.
Thank you, Jim. Hello, everyone. So what Jim just described regarding the importance of enabling the testing based on the application development's needs, we bring up this illustration that shows you how the plugins that we're about to go over with you, and also the access to the mainframe, is provided by our middleware and our end UI capabilities, accessing the mainframe to provide the services of the mainframe wherever and however the developers need that. So it may be, as Jim said, the green screen. It may be Eclipse-based plugins. It may be a web-based application. But however it may be, whatever the requirement is, the important factor is that you provide that to the developers so that they can indeed accelerate their testing, accelerate the discovery of defects, and of course the correction, and enable the acceleration then of the release process for the mainframe batch applications. So you'll see here in this illustration, we have the mainframe services, the JCL Plus slides to the far right. We have middleware, a middle communication capability with our products coming back to the whatever UI. In this case, will be the plugins for example, for IDZ, IBM, for CompuWare's Topaz, for Micro Focus Enterprise Workbench, and we even have customers who have embedded these Eclipse plugins, these Eclipse code into their own in-house web UIs. But we look at the plugins then, and this will look familiar to most of you who have one of these Eclipse-based IDEs in use at your shop. The value of them is, as Jim mentioned, the GUI type presentation, of course, for the let's say the younger folks among us who prefer this approach. But also, there's a lot of flexibility here, as I hope you'll see as we go forward. A lot of flexibility in enabling the testing, enabling and facilitating the analysis of application testing and application defects. So in this example, we have here in this perspective a window with some JCL that you might be editing, and if you choose at any point in time to validate that JCL, and when we say validate, we're talking about not only syntax validation, but really a runtime simulation on the mainframe environment in the LPAR or on the system that you choose to test it on, meaning the system or the LPAR where likely this production job is going to run, thereby enabling you the developer to test with the security, with the libraries, with the data sets, with all of the resources that are going to be in play when the job actually runs in production. That's how you get a good test. That's how you get quality and understand what your defects are much earlier in your life cycle process. So in this example, we have the edited JCL. Right click to choose to JCL scan it. And when you do that, the developer presented with the opportunity to target the test to the environment that they wish to target it to. So as I said, a particular LPAR, particular system, even the ability to alter the test, the scan, by adjusting some parameters, adjusting some, maybe including a different standards enforcement exit, whatever it may be, uniqueness for that particular environment on which you want the test to take place. Once the test is done, the scan is done, the results are then presented back to the desktop. Here in the center, the JCL member that I was editing, the results are presented here in the left upper window, embedded messages below each of the statements that cause the message to be generated. When you click on any of the messages, it positions all the screens automatically to that particular spot in the JCL listing. The lower right here is the list, accumulated list of all errors that were found in the listing. And as you might imagine, wherever you click, in any one of the windows, it repositions every window so that you're always looking at the spot and seeing the related area where the area of interest where that defect occurred or that you might be working on. Furthermore, to provide even more information, as you float over any of these icons on the left here within the data set, the JCL listing, you get pop-up windows that explain even further the information about the message that occurred, that may have a defect or informational or what have you. Again, great information and facilitating the whole ease of identifying defects and more quickly and knowing where and how the defect occurred. Now, when a developer is working on a single job, a single proc, whatever it might be, we just went through that. That's how you would scan and get the results for a single entity. Most often then, a developer is ready to test with a group of jobs, right? Maybe an entire application, maybe a subset of 4, 5, 10 jobs, to see how the scan or the jobs run in a sequential order or the order in which they will run in production. And so we have an opportunity or functionality in this plugin called BR Jobs that allows a developer to run a scan of multiple jobs, a batch run of multiple jobs, scanning, produce the results, bring the results down to a file here in the plugin, and then you see here for each job, each of the messages is produced below the job. You can identify all the messages that occurred for every job. Click on any one of these and it automatically positions you in the JCL where that particular message occurred. And as well, if you can't see it, I know it's a little bit small, but across the top here are other buttons that change the configuration of this window. Right now, when we look at it, we're seeing a by job review, okay? But clicking one of the other buttons up here, now we're seeing a by program list. So within that list of jobs that we just scanned, 10, 20, 50 jobs, whatever it might have been, we have we can now see each of the programs that were part of that scan and a number of occurrences of each. If I open one of these up, I would then see any of the messages that occurred for that particular program, in this case, or step, if you will, right? Furthermore, it could be up here, there's also by procs, by data set, so that the developer has the freedom and the flexibility to analyze the resultant output in any way that makes most sense for their requirements. And again, speed of identification of defects, speed of correction as what you're trying to get to. There's even a search capability. So you pop up a window, type in a string, and the plugin will find that string in every instance that it occurs, be it as part of, in this case, part of the library name, in any of the messages that have occurred, in program names, in data sets, and then each of these is selectable. So when you select any of these then found items from the search, it positions the windows anywhere where they might have occurred, and then you can further drill down and do more analysis. There is additionally a tremendously powerful capability in the plugin for cross-referencing, so that let's say you're going through a listing, you're reviewing errors, as we saw from a scan, and you want to know more about a particular proc. In particular, where else is this proc used, so that I know what else I'm impacting? Right-click on that particular line and drill down and select procs, cross-reference, and you see a window then is presented with everywhere that particular proc is used, all the jobs that use that proc. Furthermore, if you want to drill down further, okay, now I want to learn more about a particular occurrence, the job that uses the proc used in this particular job. Let me see more about that job. And click on that and drill down and get right into even the JCL that's part of that job. We also have, should they want to do even further different kinds of analysis about the occurrence of a particular defect, or understand better some information about specific JCL statements, there's a web UI that can get them access to many, many more aspects of the contents of the batch components and how and well they interrelate. So very, very powerful. desktop type access to the components of the batch JCL and the batch applications. And again, it's how we get high quality more quickly. And finally, as a developer, you're certainly you're doing these tests. You do single tests, you do system tests, you're ready to promote. And oftentimes you're doing a promotion process in your lifecycle promotion process from test to stage of production through an automated change system. In this case, we're using IBM's Rational Team Concert as an example, but it could just as well be ISPW. It could be ChangeMan, any number of products that are out there for this purpose. This example is a Rational Team Concert from IBM, and we have oftentimes then the case where you're promoting a package, not just the JCL, but source code and control cards, what have you. And when we do that within the Rational Team Concert, we're looking here in this example at the JCL piece or the JCL component of the package. The availability of the plugin is here as well, so they could click on that JCL component of the package and you can do a scan right from that piece of the package and see what the results of the scan are. Very helpful to not just the developers, but maybe later on in the process, in the lifecycle promotion process for production support folks, or for folks who were involved in the analysis and approval of the packages. Okay, so we've gone through some examples of the plugin for the JCL testing and the ability, giving the developers the ability and the flexibility to test the batch process on the system in which they reside or they're going to run, and understand where defects are more quickly, understand how to correct them more quickly, and also understand what the impact of a given defect might be across their application and other applications. Well, as a developer, again, one of the other aspects of that you're going to do as part of your test is to run the applications in a test mode. And that typically calls for maybe compiling your COBOL code for one thing, or whatever programming language you're using, but it also calls for running the batch application, running the JCL, getting output from those batch test runs, syslog, sysout, printed output, whatever it might be. You need to then be able to, as a developer, view that output and see further analysis on how did the job run, what am I looking at from a log perspective, condition codes, output that was produced, etc. Now, this particular portion we're talking about, the Savers plugin, and that Savers is a package that analyzes and provides access to for viewing, archiving, and printing, if you want to, your log and sysout output. The value here as a plugin now puts on the desktop, just like the JCL Plus desktop IDE, puts on the desktop the ability for the developers to quickly get in and see the results of their batch testing. Now, there is a very simple viewing product that's provided with for example, IDM's IDE, IDZ, but the Savers capability is much more robust, and you'll see some examples here how it really enables the developer to do to have much more power and much more flexibility when they're looking at their syslog and sysprint output. First of all, we start out with the capability to do a filter of what particular output they want to see. So for this example, the first thing a developer would do is go in and specify which particular, maybe a mask or a particular specific job name that they want to, for which they want to view output. There's a capability to present a date range or specific date that they want the JCL or the output was produced for. They can specify a message class, a particular return code, all in the with the capability of filtering down to specifically which output they want to look at. if they're use a particular criteria often, they can even save this as a criteria model name and use it over and over again with just a click. Once they specify the criteria, then Sabres provides then all of the jobs and the output that meet that criteria. In this example, we're looking at, first of all, on the far left, the metadata about the particular job that's selected. So in this case, we have a list of all the jobs that met the criteria. We select this job. It produces and provides the metadata. When was that job accumulated? What was the CPU time, return code, things like that. In the center window is a listing of all the output. Now, if you select the job level, then this window contains browsable output for the entire job, all listings, be it sysout, syslog, sysprint, all those, right? If you select one of the DDs below the job, then the window will present only that specific DD's output, and you can scroll through that and view that. Further, you can opt to select a table view at the bottom here, which gives you metadata about the particular job or specific DD that you've selected. And you see here the metadata. It includes line counts and step and all the different things that you would expect metadata for the specific file that you've selected. So that enables the developers to now have the test scanning that they need done, to have access to the output quickly and easily from the same IDE desktop, and be able to react to it and do what they need to do. In particular, as well, from within this plugin, I don't have an example of it, but I can tell you that if you bring up the JCL within this window and make a change to it, you can resubmit the JCL via the JCL Plus plugin again, so that it works from within the Sabres plugin and allows you, the developer, to quickly do multiple scans, quickly see the output, and again get to a error-free or defect-free state. So that's what we were talking about with regards to providing the testing tools, putting them in the developer's hands so that they have the ability to speed up, accelerate their testing, which then in turn accelerates the move to quality. And hopefully that enables a quicker release schedule for mainframe applications. With that whole, this whole DevOps initiative, the whole DevOps concept that Jim touched on in the very beginning, and what we are trying to help our customers get to with all of our continued investment in these areas, we're seeing a lot of opportunity for the investments that we've done, and a lot of opportunity down the road for continued enhancement, continued value for our customers. So what's coming up next, and Jim touched on this a little bit, but I'll go into it a little bit further. For Sabres, the output log and sysout output that we just went through, that plugin, we're going to be adding a web user interface, so that in conjunction with that, there'll be additionally collectors on other systems, Linux, Windows, logs, etc., all contributing to and being housed on the mainframe environment, which we think is the most secure, most well-managed server for housing the data. But the web UI will then allow for access with a portal of access to any systems logs, any systems output that you need. And that'll be coming actually in the near term. The final item that we want to talk about, and I have a couple slides related to this, is the Java batch for working with batch applications going into the future. And we're really pleased to be partnering with IBM in a webinar with the end of next month, April 25th, specifically on the Java Batch initiative. IBM has been working on this for quite some time, and I know working with some of the major customers to help them in moving to a Java for batch approach, using a Java as the batch application and batch scripting language running on the mainframe, which means, folks, that it replaces JCL and COBOL and all that as a go-to batch process that you would use, either converting what you have now or as you go forward, newer applications that you create on the mainframe for batch. The reason, and this slide I've excerpted from the IBM portion of the webinar, which will be done next month. Several of the reasons are, and there are several good reasons why companies are looking at the opportunity that Java Batch presents. One is certainly to modernize the processes, and you'll see that Java Batch allows you to do a number of different things as far as the flow and managing the execution of your batch process itself. The availability of Java skills, we know about all that. There aren't too many folks coming out of school that know COBOL or JCL or that stuff. So they're more likely to know Java, and so that's the plethora of skill set that's available leans towards that. And the other thing too, which is not to be discounted here, is the fact that with running Java allows these applications, a number of them, to run in the specialty engines, which, as we know, are not counted towards the CPU charges. So companies are extremely interested in that, as you can imagine, and that can afford them potentially some significant savings by moving to the Java Batch approach. Okay, so what are we doing? Where does SCA come into play with that? Again, the details, we'll get much more into this in the next month's webinar, but with Java Batch comes as I said, there's no JCL, now it's Java scripting language, JSL, and there's Java to be validated, right? As opposed to JCL. So we have a Java Batch plugin coming down the road, and validation for that type of scripting language, which of course will have its own set of standards. It will have its own nuances as far as grammar and all that. One of the things that was kind of we're showing here is the plugin for Java Batch validation actually can draw pictures or flow, so that you can see what the flow of your Java Batch script will be. In Java Batch or script, you can kind of write many programs, if you will, instead of JCL, as JSL is going to be able to go through and execute a number of different steps simultaneously, or repeat steps, and all kinds of things like that, right? So you're going to have to, for example, find out, did I just code a loop, that inadvertently, and things like that. So that's the kind of stuff that, in addition to syntax checking and standards type, naming conventions, etc., there's a number of other capabilities that the Java Batch presents, which is great from a capability perspective, but also presents issues around validation and potential defects that we're going to be able to identify. So, as you can see, we're continuing to work with the IT world. In this case, we're partnering with IBM to see what's coming down the road. What are they doing? What are our customers needing, and how can we help them more? And we are continuing to invest in and stay relevant for our customers with these testing tools, so that you can achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve with your quality and acceleration of your release schedules. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jim to wrap up, and then we'll do some questions.
Great, thank you, Sal, and folks, thank you. In this session on enabling your Eclipse UI, we established that a common question organizations are asking is, how do I increase both velocity and quality in application delivery? We suggested that a sound strategy in seeing this outcome in interdependent environments requires investment in mainframe batch assets. We introduced the importance of cross-organization adoption of reliable and predictive testing in driving early defect elimination. Sal went into some examples of how Eclipse plugins can be leveraged as an important aspect in helping to enable this goal. Finally, reinforcing our belief that your testing ISV partners need to be passionate about maintaining relevance, Sal shared insights on where SCA is investing now on behalf of our customers. And with that, we are looking forward to responding to questions, and I'll pass it back to Sal.
Thank you, Jim. We do have a few questions, folks. If we don't have time to get to them all, please understand we'll be glad to take them. We're going to take them all. We will respond to them all. We'll get the questions and answers out to all of you who attended the webinar. And and if you have questions afterwards, please feel free to send them to, you have my email address and Jim's email address on the screen in front of you, or to sales@sysout.com. We're happy to take any questions that you might think of afterwards, which is always the case, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. But let's see what we have here just for now. We've got a couple. Let's see. One we have. The plugins. How are they installed, or is it anything? Are they desktop installed applications? Or no. The plugins are, if you're familiar with plugins at all, they're standard plugins. So meaning that there's any IDE developer who's using whether it be IDZ or Topaz or Workbench from Micro Focus, there's a standard way that you just click on a library and download available plugins, and we're part of all that. It's a very generic standard approach that they use in the plugin world, and that's how it's done, and very straightforward. And anyone who's worked with that stuff will know how to do it. There's nothing that we ship that you have to install on the desktop itself, so to speak. Can I have different options for different teams, development teams? For example, we have different standards and other requirements for different companies. Yeah, that's a really good question. Naturally, today, we're well aware that you have organizations that have done a number of mergers over time, right? Acquisitions of various companies, and they've kind of left them alone, if you will, rather than make massive changes to the way they did their IT. Consequently, you have 2, 3, 5, 10 different standards in the works, and each of them have their own valid approach, but they're different, and you have to validate when you for that particular life cycle, right? Yeah, these plugins, as part of our JCL Plus product in general, on the green screen side too, has the flexibility to vary whatever the validation that you want, based on the company, based on the LPAR, based on pretty much anything that you can think of, can very easily be altered dynamically as the plugin is being executed to determine which particular system am I being targeted to, which particular development team am I being tested from, et cetera, and easily adjusts what kind of validation is being done based on those criteria. Let's see, how far back does the Sysout archive go? So for savers, yeah. So one thing I didn't mention to you, which makes it very, very powerful, that savers plugin, in addition to the filtering criteria and the flexibility of the window itself, Savers has the ability to, and does, archive your Sysout for however long you decide. So it's a variable based on your particular company needs. You can choose to keep the output for a day, a week, 3 years, whatever. The cool thing about that is that if I'm a developer and I am validating, I'm validating some batch application, and I'm looking at my output that I just ran today, and now I want to run it or look at what happened a week ago. I can put 2 tabs up there and look at today's output and also look at last week's output side by side and see what the differences are. Much more flexible and certainly very powerful for developers to help them in analyzing and determining, what changed, and certainly how can I correct a problem, right? This is the last question I have right now. Why is the Savers Web UI important? Oh, well, Web UI for Savers, I mentioned earlier, the goal there is to provide outside of the plugin, to provide a full web-based portal for the output viewing. And that will also be a portal for, as we add collectors for the Linux, for the Windows, for the other platforms, we'll be able to contribute those outputs from those platforms to the mainframe database. And that one web portal will allow you to view and get analytics for any of the output from any of the platforms. So with that, I think we've closed out our session for today. So I thank you all. If you have any questions, comments, additional need for information, we're here to help. So please contact us. A number of ways we've given you, and we'll be glad to help. Thanks again. Have a great day.